Morning, everyone. It's Joe Waxman, and I'm back with another video. This morning, I'd like to talk about a renowned actor who recently just passed away, Sean Connery, the famous Scotsman, the original James Bond. Yeah, he was the first, and what a character! What a great character he is. He's born on 25th of August, 1930, 6:05 p.m., Edinburgh, Scotland. Probably the most notable Scotsman in modern times. I mean, Sean Connery. I mean, he's synonymous with James Bond. He's equally known for just his outrageous, hard masculine personality. Yeah. So he originally was a bodybuilder, which is pretty interesting, in Scotland, but he couldn't compete with Americans because they took it far more seriously than him, and I don't know, they just had much bigger muscle mass, and they wouldn't do things that apparently, from what I read, that would diminish their muscle mass, and he was just much more, he wasn't taking it nearly as seriously. Anyway, he's a Virgo sun in the 8th house, which is fascinating. 8th house, you don't usually see 8th house suns in fame and notoriety. I'm an 8th house sun, and the reason why is that 8th house is a house, it's not only a water house, it's a house of secrecy and hidden things. And if the sun is in the 8th house, it's not going to get as much exposure. And there's a tendency to overlook the planets in the 8th house just because they have this hidden nature. They have like a dark light on them. But 8th Lord is Leo. So it's 8th Lord in the 8th house. And it is the 9th whole sign house, 9th sign. So there's 8th Lord and 8th house is going to protect that house. It's going to be beneficial. And the being in the 9th sign also is going to take it out of it's going to give it some 8th, 9th house influences. Now it is in Virgo. And the dispositor Mercury is also in Virgo, exalted in Virgo. So that's quite good. They are far apart, but for the sun to have energetic access to its dispositor, also the moon, which is in Virgo, is quite good. The expression will be much better because it's ruled by Mercury, and then you can see it. So the natural expression is going to be very easy and natural. Sun is conjunct Neptune. So this is great for acting, for any of the creative arts. This would also be good, excellent for astrology too, but that's not the route he went, obviously. Neptune having to do with fantasy, delusion, creativity, also psychic abilities. And glamour as well. Putting on a false illusory image, right? Like an actor needs to do. It's trying the ascendant. That's quite good. Moon is in Virgo. I have a Virgo moon, and it's conjunct its dispositor Mercury. So that's a really good conjunction because Moon and Mercury are quite fine together. The expression he'll naturally be able to express his moon, which is great for acting. To express the heart, and the emotions very easly. And Mercury is exalted, so that benefits the moon a lot, and it's also its dispositor. So that's a very good combination here for Sean Connery. Moon is ruling the 7th house. That's also good, because 7th house is the house of others and the masses, What's really fascinating is that his ascendant is in Capricorn, with its ruler, ascendant ruler, Saturn, is exactly conjunct the ascendant. Now, just a quick note, some people will say chart ruler. I don't like that because technically it's just the ascendant ruler. It doesn't necessarily rule the whole chart. The ascendant itself is an extremely important factor, but specifically, it's actually just the ascendant ruler. I mean, it's a stretch to call it the chart ruler. It's the ascendant ruler, the ascendant lord. Anyway, so the ascendant lord is conjunct the ascendant. That's extremely powerful, and it's Saturn. And so for a man, this is like excellent because well, it's a masculine combination. That's why, you know. So he was tall. He was 6'2". He was a bodybuilder, and there's like several quotations of people saying that he was the most beautiful thing they'd ever seen. So yeah, you can imagine just this manly, tall Scotsman, all muscly and you know, like Saturnian, just, you know, the chiseled, you know, Saturn, Capricorn especially, and Saturn, Saturn in Capricorn, ascendant. It's just gonna look. He's gonna look like a statue, right? He's just gonna look like he's chiseled by Michelangelo. Got his name. Right, he's gonna look like a Greek god. And so that's one of the big things that propelled him to success. He wasn't immediately successful. I mean, you know, and that's Saturn. Saturn's slow to develop. But he was into bodybuilding. Then he got into acting. He wanted to do football, but that didn't, you know, I guess Scottish football, which is soccer, what we call soccer, American soccer. But anyway, he went into acting instead. And it took him years. Like, he was in his 30s before he started landing good roles, or upper 20s, and then in his 30s he landed the role of James Bond, and he was the first James Bond, and he's still like the most notorious, the most renowned, the most celebrated, the most famous James Bond. Like, we love Sean Connery, James Bond, right? Who doesn't? So yeah, this ascendant is fantastic. It's all Sean Connery, because ascendant lord conjunct the ascendant. Anything conjunct the ascendant is going to be extremely powerful, right? And here it's Saturn. And so as he matured into adulthood, he's just like, you know, this statue, this beautiful piece of art, right? And Saturn, right? Saturn, we don't think of Saturn as being something that's like, you know, beautiful, but apparently for a tall Scotsman bodybuilder, it's perfect, right? It's like the perfect combination. Okay. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer in the 7th house, conjunct Pluto. So Jupiter is extremely powerful in Cancer, and on the angle, you know, close enough to the descendant, it's excellent. Jupiter does excellent in the 7th house. 7th house is the house of others, and it's the house of the masses. So this is very fame giving. And then Pluto here, you know, because Jupiter is in the stronger position, it's being influenced by Pluto is being influenced by Jupiter. Of course, Jupiter is being influenced by Pluto, but this still is making it more positive. Jupiter is a benefic, and Pluto is you know, malefic. It makes things, you know, it's more challenging. But this is giving him, you know, this very, again, it's very attractive. It adds to his whole, because this is how he's relating to the world. This is how he's relating to others. Very Jupiterian, exalted Jupiter, with the Saturn and domicile, right? So it's like Jupiter, Saturn, and then Pluto. He's beautiful. He's larger than life, and he's also powerful, right? Jupiter and Pluto together is powerful and potentially dangerous, but not. Like, he's good willing because there's Jupiter there, but the Pluto's like, wants to dominate and control and just, that's what Pluto wants to do. It's transformative, it's powerful, it's obsessive, and it's dominating. So there's a bit of edge there. And apparently, like, there's a story that I just read on Wikipedia that he wasn't all just looks. Like, he could fight too, and he beat up some Scottish gangsters, I don't know, gang members, something like that, and he gained respect for that. So he could also be a tough guy, which is probably, I mean, the sixth house Mars definitely adds to that. It's in Gemini. Gemini can move. Mars and Gemini can move. I think Mike Tyson has Mars and Gemini, and Mars in sixth house loves to fight. So Gemini is going to be like the Mars and Gemini is going to be like the person that can just move in ways that you're never going to expect it. You're never going to be able to second guess it because they're just going to be all over the place. That's one of the things about Gemini is Gemini is always seeking novelty, right? That's one of the keys if you want to understand why Gemini is the way it is. It's because it's constantly seeking the new thing, and what the new thing is the thing that's not been done before. So you can never guess what a Gemini is going to do next, because it's always going to be the thing that's never been done before. It's always going to be something completely new, and you're not going to, unless you're a Gemini yourself, then maybe. But if you're not Gemini, you don't know what Gemini is going to do. That's Gemini. That's, Gemini doesn't even know what it's going to do. So like Mars and Gemini, Mars ruling the body, they're going to be able to move. Like, fantastic movement, Mars and Gemini. It's just like, you'll never be able to guess where they're going to be next, on this side, that side, behind you, like, they'll just be all over the place. And, Mars in the sixth house, you can definitely fight. And then he's got a lot of these squares going on, which is, challenge. I mean, that's a challenge. So Mars is square Mercury and the moon. So first of all, Mars square Mercury, that's argumentative. All right. But Mars is aspecting its dispositor Mercury, and it's an exalted Mercury. So yeah, he's going to be witty because of the Mercury influence. He's going to be sharp. He's going to be witty. He's going to be argumentative. And it's also the moon. I mean, there's a potential for abuse here. Mars square moon can be abusive towards women, especially verbal abuse, because moon's a feminine planet, and he was known to be potentially abusive towards women. He's made some questionable statements about hitting a woman, but he says you don't hit a woman in the same way that you hit a man, or whatever that's worth. I don't know. Anyway, Mars square moon, that's an abusive combination, especially in the Mercury ruled signs. It's more verbal abuse than physical, right? But I wouldn't preclude physical abuse. Mars is ruling the MC, the 10th house, and his angles, MCIC angles, are so lopsided because he's born not only in Scotland but Capricorn. Capricorn's the most southern, it's right near the winter solstice point, which would be there. So yeah, Capricorn's a southern sign. So naturally the MCIC is going to be off kilter, off balance. Yeah, that's Mars. So he's a fighter, definitely. Pluto is trying the MC, and Pluto is the co-ruler of Scorpio. So that's great for career. I mean, this is a bit of trouble. Mars in the sixth house is too much fighting energy, but Mars does great. And if you want a planet in the sixth house, it's Mars and Saturn both, any malefics will do well in the sixth house, generally speaking. Excuse me. All right. But there's a lot of fighting potential here and winning potential, because Mars will win the fights that it gets into. And then Pluto and Jupiter are square this south node conjunct Venus in Libra. So Venus in Libra, excellent, ninth house, but 10th sign. So this is having 9th, 10th. So this is fame giving, because Venus in Libra also adding to his beauty, because Venus, Venus will still have an effect on the whole overall physicality. It does rule, it rules Taurus and Libra. So there's going to be some influence with a good Venus in the overall Venusian appearance quality. I mean, and then 10th house is very physical, so there's going to be something of that. But south node conjunct Venus, especially in Venus and Libra, that's showing skills that he was born with. Venus ruling creativity, not ruling, but being a very significator of creativity, of speech, of Venusian things. So like, excellent for acting, for creativity in general, for looks as well, and being in the ninth house, 10th sign, it is a very recognizable position. Let's put it that way. So this is fame giving as well. Not the only thing, but it definitely helps a lot. Right? And so Venus is ruling the ninth house cusp and the fourth house cusp, but this is the fifth sign, so fourth, fifth signification. So rising up from the early childhood, but also creativity, because we can't discount the whole sign influences. They both play a part, and that's one of the confusing things when you get very off kilter angles like this. You have to use a layered approach, at least that I feel that's what works best. So yeah, and then we're getting the squares from Pluto and Jupiter. I mean, Jupiter to Venus would definitely be a square like this would be, because they're both in really good aspect. It would create a lot of indulgence, in relationships, and obviously matters of the heart. I mean, he's a good, with Jupiter in Cancer. I mean, his philosophy, he's probably very loving, right? He probably has a very good philosophy to life, because Jupiter is the wisdom, Jupiter is the faith, and Cancer is the heart. So he's probably a very caring person ultimately, but also very indulgent, wants to be with a lot of women, loves women, and indulgent in sensorial things, material things. It's just going to bring out the exaggeration, of all the good things in life. He just wants all the good things in life and lots of it. But then Pluto square Venus, again, that's a bit like Mars square Moon. It's potentially abusive towards relationships, towards women. Venus is a feminine planet. Pluto is domination, control, obsession. So that's not so great for the women in his life. They would be subject to his dominating, controlling Saturnian ways. He's a big guy, big muscly guy with Saturn on the ascendant in Capricorn, and Pluto conjunct Jupiter in the 7th in Cancer, Mars in the 6th. I mean, he's intimidating. The guy's intimidating. And also Venus is opposite Uranus. That's quite, that's going to create a lot of shocks in relationships. a lot of multiple relationships in general, quick starts, quick stops. Um, Uranus can be violent depending on other things. It is in Aries, and it is square, well, it's square Jupiter and Pluto. It's in between these as well. So yeah, again, we're seeing multiple indicators of potential violence towards women, or just in general. I mean, here's another guy, and then we get these tough guy actors. You keep seeing it again and again and again. You know, Marlon Brando, John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, even. And then they're tough guys in real life. They're playing tough guys in the movies because they're tough guys in real life. Like they'll hit you, right, if you get in their way. And he's another one. Like, do not fight with Sean Connery because he will punch you in your nose. So there's that. Uranus in the third house in Aries. That's great for, it probably makes an excellent, dynamic actor, because his expression is going to just be like, it's just going to have that Uranian pop. It's just like snap and like force and power, and just Uranus is entertaining, if anything else, if nothing else, because it's just so sudden and so sharp and so strong and so bold, especially in Aries. It's just going to have this really dynamic dynamo quality, explosive, out of the box, really fascinating, for better or worse. Sometimes it could be the worst. Sometimes he could just fly off the handle and just, be, I don't know, act crazy, because the third house is also courage and strength of will and self-determination, expression, skills of the hands. So sometimes he could just get really angry, like explosive, Aries, right? And then it's ruled by Mars in the sixth house. So just exploding with anger and rage and violence, potentially. But at the same time, that explosive energy can be dynamo on the screen, when it needs to be in the right position, right place. And it's conjunct the North Node too. So like, as he got older, he was moving more into that third house, that expressive ability, right? Ability to be this kind of dynamic speaker, expressor, third house things. All right. Let's see, the Pluto is kind of square the nodes. So is Pallas. I don't know how much that plays into it. That's very square the nodes, but Pluto is. So definitely a lot of power, obsession, dynamo, not dynamo, using the wrong words. A lot of influence over others. Pluto is going to be very influential, very powerful, and it's going to have some square the nodes is going to be a destiny, a certain destiny. A lot of nodal contacts: South Node Venus, North Node Uranus, and then Pluto square. So very strong destiny. Yeah. One of the other things about the eighth house, which I forgot to mention, it's the house of secrecy. So, what was his most famous role? James Bond. What was James Bond? Essentially, James Bond was a spy. So, right, operating in secrecy. Okay, and Neptune is also ruling co-ruler of Pisces, 12th house. So hidden things, secrecy. So it's really interesting. Actors don't just play, any old role. They play roles that they're suited to. So he's playing a spy. He's with these eighth house with, influence. That's very, very accurate. He could actually be a spy, right? Because he has that hidden secret quality. Spies need to have eighth house or 12th house influence. because otherwise they're going to be too recognized. For myself, I can testify that I have a fully 8th house sun in Venus, and I was a mystery shopper for a while, a secret mystery shopper. You know, that's like a spy. I'd go into stores. I had a hidden camera, and I'd, you know, do my spiel and, you know, pretend to be a customer, and I wasn't. I was a, you know, an employee, a mystery shopper, secret. Anyway, so that's 8th house influence for sure. James Bond. He was voted, considered one of the sexiest men alive, like on many accounts. And so Lilith is conjunct the 2nd house cusp. Not exactly the 1st house, but it is ruled by Saturn, Aquarius, and 2nd house is voice. So I think that helps. You know, his speech is going to be, you know, so Lilith is still going to play a role. And this is the mean and true Lilith are exactly conjunct. So we have that full force of Lilith right on the 2nd house cusp. So his speech, right? And he is famous for his speech as well, not just his looks, not just his whole persona. It's his speech that was one of the things that was extremely powerful. So it's 2 things. It's this Lilith, and it's the 2nd house ruler in the 1st in Capricorn. So the dignity is excellent for this Saturn, because in Capricorn and conjunct the ascendant. So it's getting, you know, double the strength here. It gets a really nice trine from Sun and Neptune. So that's good. There's a wide square to Mercury, but it's out of sign. So I don't think that's, you know, too much of a bother. But yeah, so there's multiple indications there for his sex appeal. You know, the Lilith, the Saturn on the ascendant, and then the Jupiter and Pluto in the 7th. And then Mars in the 6th probably helps a lot. And then South Node conjunct Venus in the 9th, but 10th house, 10th whole sign house as well. That's really good. And then Sun conjunct Neptune, because Neptune will be that illusory factor, creating the illusion of, you know, and it's trining the ascendant, creating the illusion of something much bigger than he is. I mean, Marilyn Monroe had Neptune on the ascendant, so it's a similar quality, that this illusory factor, this ability to project an image out into the world. Now, one really interesting thing is that we look at the declination and speed. Chiron is stationary, and that's the only stationary planet. Mars is out of bounds. Okay, so first of all, Mars is out of bounds. So that's a very extreme Mars. So, you know, if he fights, he's gonna, you know, his aggressive ability, his Martian ability, which is ruling the 10th house cusp, EMC, and the 3rd house. So Mars and Gemini. So this is his fight. He's going to fight. He's going to go to extreme. He'll fight hard. But Chiron is stationary. So Chiron's a very unusual planetoid, and it's conjunct the IC. Well, the IC deals with the home, the homeland, people of the home. So if you want to know about his relationship to Scotland, you look at the IC, and he's considered by, I mean, he's beloved by the Scottish. He is a national treasure. You know, according to Wikipedia, he was like the most you know, celebrated thing about Scotland. So that could be seen with this Chiron, oddly enough, and Chiron's considered the wounded healer. But this is in good aspect. I mean, it has a square to Lilith, but I don't, that's fairly minor. It's powerful because it's stationary and it's conjunct the IC. And Chiron's a centaur. The other centaur we have to remember is Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter. So Jupiter's the teacher. Chiron's also a teacher. So there is a very positive connection with Chiron. And just a word about the centaur. The centaur is obviously half horse, half man. But if we want to relate it to something that actually exists, that would be the man on the horseback with the bow and arrow, the hunter. And why that's significant is because it's sort of like an organic technology. It's an advancement. It's for the traditional people who did not have guns and modern weaponry. The man on the horseback was the most fierce warrior that you could be. I mean, Genghis Khan, took over, conquered vast swaths of land with his army that was on horseback. That was, so point being that the centaur is an evolution. It's a step up. And that does relate to Sagittarius and Jupiter. And in this case, Chiron, that there's a higher thinking when we're talking about centaurs, an evolution, a technology, an organic technology, a wisdom. So Chiron does, especially when it's good, well aspected and it's strong, there is a Jupiterian quality, a teacher-like quality, right? So here, Chiron is aiding his reputation at home. He was knighted by the Queen. He's a national treasure to Scotland. So that's how that works into it. It's also trine the moon, which is excellent. And it's sextile Pluto and Jupiter. So this is a well aspected Chiron that's stationary. So I mean, he's a national hero, national treasure in Scotland. So that's what that is. I think I pretty much covered it. He died at age 90 last year, and yeah, he's been in the news for that reason. And this is Sean Connery. He'll forever be remembered and loved for his roles, especially James Bond, right? All right, that's pretty much it, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And if you want to book a reading, go to my website, macroastrology.com. That's it for now. I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.